The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Baseball season is right around the corner, and the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast and SeatGeek are on a 30-day tour with fans from around the major leagues. Listen in as we talk about where to get a bite or a beverage pre- and post-game, best places to sit at every ballpark, favorite food, favorite players, and favorite moments from all 30 stadiums from around the big leagues. It's the 1420 Fan Experience Ballpark Tour, brought to you by SeatGeek. Let's get into it. The 1420 Major League Baseball Fan Experience Ballpark Tour brought to you by SeatGeek and the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 in the process. Next stop on our world tour, we're going to stay on the East Coast, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Citizens Bank Ballpark, home of the Philadelphia Phillies. Joining us today to fill us in on all things Phillies, Steve Rychel of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm great, brother. You know, just another day. Spring training baseball is finally here. Us Philly fans could get that raw taste out of our mouth that the Houston Astros left on us at the end of the World Series.
I hate the Astros.
So close,
I think,
but so far, my friend.
I think we're all in that agreement. Unless you're an Astros fan, nobody likes the Astros. That's the thing. Before we get into baseball, tough one a couple of weeks back with the Super Bowl. Was that a penalty in the fourth quarter? What's your thoughts on that before we get rolling? I don't want to bring up bad memories and bad thoughts.
I will never sit there and go and say, this is why we lost. No, you let them back in that game. You played like crap in the second half. You don't get to blame James Bradbury. You don't get to blame the referees. You point that finger. Where's it come back to? Yourself. Okay. Yeah. You let them score the way you did. You could sit there and say, oh, the Quez Watkins drop was big, the penalty. If you stop them once in the second half, we're not having this conversation.
100%.
We're talking about how Jalen Hurts has done the impossible in 3 years.
I completely agree. Everybody says it was the call, and they wouldn't make the call. Is it a penalty? Not
listen,
a penalty?
I'd love to sit there and say that's the reason. No, that's not the reason.
It's not. They didn't make a stop in the second half. If you stop
Patrick Mahomes once in that second half, we're not having this conversation.
Yeah, it's tough because
But I'll say the one thing that you have to say: Jalen Hurts arrived. No more talk that he can't throw from the pocket. The numbers prove it. He was the best pocket passer in the NFL last year. The best. So it's not the improviser. That's not why. His big thing is, he does hurt you with the RPO. And he does have nice weapons around him now that makes this team special. And it should be fun to watch the next 5-10 years, whatever it's going to be, when you have Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. The human highlight reel in Devontae Smith is beyond me. I was excited when the draft pick happened, but seeing what Devontae Smith did the last 2 years, you go and bring A.J. Brown in, you're gonna restructure things. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen with the running back and Miles. You don't know what's gonna happen with the defense. I think that's the biggest question moving into the season is, can the Eagles bring back the key guys that they have to and let go of the guys that are gonna hold them back? I firmly believe James Bradbury is gone. And do not blame him one bit. Javion Hargrave, he's gone. He's going to get $20 to $30 million a year at that position. He's averaged 10 sacks a year for the last 2 years he was here in Philadelphia. He damn near hit 20 last year. So that's the biggest thing. Then the other question is, is Fletch coming back? He probably should retire. Brandon Graham will probably come back on a team-friendly deal. They have a good core. Nakobe Dean is the next heir apparent there, middle linebacker. You let TJ Edwards walk. You have a lot of cap room to get Jalen Hurts in long term in a team-friendly deal, because if anyone heard anything, they asked about the contract right after the Super Bowl. He said one thing that made me fall in love with that kid even more. He's like, I can care about the money. The money will be there. I want to win.
That's the biggest thing.
This is why Jalen Hurts has been propelled in the way he has been, why he's been held in such high regard by both his teammates and the coaching staff, everything. Why Carson Wentz was ran out of here so fast is because the intangibles that Jalen Hurts brings to it. I was dead wrong on this guy. I was so hard on him last year, so hard. But what he's done in this past year, no one's made a jump like that since Peyton Manning. Remember Peyton Manning's first year, he was not. Everyone was like,
good.
He's
1
a
in
bust,
15,
he's a bust.
I think it was
that
bad.
Second year, Peyton started hitting things. It's like, oh, okay, he could do it. That's what just happened this year with Jalen. Let's be honest.
100%.
And now we're talking about we're gonna edit rules for the quarterback sneak. Oh man, y'all pathetic.
The league it's odd. The way the league is ran, it's odd. We could talk about that for hours on end, and it's crazy that the rules that they make.
I can't wait for what's going to happen in the draft, the offseason, whatever. It's going to be a long one. I can't wait for July, September to roll around. We talk about football again, but that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about some spring training, some baseball, right?
Baseball season's upon us. Spring training games are on. I got three going on down here in the 1420 Sports Bar. We're going to talk a little bit about the Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. When you go to a game, what's the go-to spot before the game? You want to have a beverage here.
If anyone has ever tailgated in Philadelphia, man, it's always the parking lots, man. You have a lot of that family atmosphere down there, that party atmosphere down there. Kind of, I guess your typical college frat guy type situation, and it's always it's for the most part it's good hearted fun, and people are generally not that aggressive Philadelphia fan that everyone feels like. But typically when that happens, of course we do a lot of razzing and we're I guess a lot in your face as a lot of people say, but as long as we all take it within stride, nothing ever kind of really develops out of it. But heading down to the stadium, always try to get down there, a few hours early, get the tailgating in with your friends, your family, your common focus as far as baseball fan goes. It doesn't matter if we're talking baseball, football, basketball, whatever. It's the same thing for Philadelphia fans.
No, it's I was going to ask you a little later on. We'll get right on it. Do Philly fans get a bad rap? Like my brother was just there 2 weeks ago, hanging out. His wife's cousin is the goalie coach for the Flyers. He said it was great, but he's also amongst Philly people. Do Philly fans get a bad rap?
Yeah, we do. But some of it's deserved. Because just like any fan base, you have pockets full of idiots that have no reason being a fan of the team, let alone being at a sporting event. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and that run at 17, there's so many different videos of nonsense going on. You had, the little kid getting in the old lady Vikings fan's face, basically spelling out "fu" and things of that nature. You had idiots being drunk, razzing each other, made some drunk kid eat a pile of horse dung. I mean, there's some crazy stuff the Phillies fans done. The one you always hear, we threw snowballs at Santa. That was 1968, guys. We're still talking about that.
Yeah, that one, the booing Santa Claus, that was a long
Does anyone
time
remember the context of why we booed Santa Claus? Why snowballs were? No, you don't remember that. You just know what happened.
Clickbait and snips.
I'll say it like this. There is no one who cares more than no one who is more passionate about their sports team, regardless you're talking baseball, football, hockey, basketball, whatever it may be, than a Philadelphia sports fan. We are completely invested in the team, everything about it. The player, we want the best from you. You had a bad day, you're going to hear about it. You saved us in a bad spot, you're going to hear about it. It's, you get the pro, you get the con. It's all up to you, the consumer, the athlete, on how you're going to take it. You listen to all the guys that came to the Eagles over the last few years. Tell me, anyone had a bad experience? Hell, you've had rivals come here. James Bradbury was a giant before he came in here. Did he sit there and talk about how terrible Philadelphia is? He's getting ready to leave. Is he talking about how terrible Philadelphia fans are? No, he's not. I wonder why that is. We are just Philly invested fans, just like any other fan. Are we obnoxious? Are we in your face? Probably. But I don't think it's warranted, man. Like you look at the superstars that are here in Philadelphia right now. Jalen Hurts, Bryce Harper, Joel Embiid. What is the one thing you hear from the three of them is how great this fan base is.
Yeah, no,
are they impartial because they're here? Maybe. But name me a team, city, or fan base that goes above and beyond their team more than Philadelphia fan does. You could say Dallas Cowboys fans, Yankee fans, because obviously you have a long, rich history. things of that nature. Like you could sit there and say, New York Ranger fans that they're obviously passionate about like there's aspects and things like that. But what I think makes Philly special is 4 for 4 across the board. It's the same way: baseball, football, hockey, basketball.
That's
And
fantastic.
you can throw combat sports in there because we're fighting town. We love boxing, we love MMA, things of that nature.
Little bit of rough and tumble from what I've never been, but I've heard it's a great town. It's a great sports town. There's no getting around that. So you get done tailgating, you have a couple of pops in you, whatever it may be, and you go into the stadium. What's the go-to food inside the stadium once you're in the Citizens Bank ballpark? Actually, before we go, what's like, is there anything around the ballpark that someone who hasn't been there before might want to go look at?
Like people remember, obviously this is now the third different stadium that the Philadelphia Phillies has called home. So obviously anyone who was around for Veterans Stadium, there was statues and things like that was on the outside, and they made around the ballpark, they've made places to kind of replace that and put things like that. They're depending on the day activity, they have pop-up stuff for the kids and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But there's always nostalgic type stuff to walk around the ballpark where you can go and kind of enjoy some of the history of what this franchise is. So yeah, I mean, you got one of Robin Roberts is outside one of the gates. You have another one of Schmidt outside of one of the other gates. So I mean, it's you have some cool history, some cool things to kind of look at and things like that. Not only that, like, listen, it's your first game. Make sure you always you head over to customer service to get your free certificate and things of that nature they give to the kids and stuff like that. So just like you do it in any other ballpark,
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going. Like, I've been to New York a number of times. We're going to make the trip over to Philly this time around and catch a game. But you get inside the park. What's your go-to beverage? What's the food and beverage situation like inside Citizens Bank ballpark?
I mean, like, just like at any place, anytime you go to a ballpark anymore, obviously you're getting gouged.
Oh God, it's
crazy when it comes to the drink or the food. But I guess the food of choice here in Philadelphia is the Schmitter, obviously named after former Philadelphia Philly Mike Schmidt. Probably being arguably probably the most famous Philly that we've had in the last 30-40 years.
100%. I don't think that's even questionable. Like, there's another guy we'll talk about a little later, but yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a few. There's some. Like I said, when we get into that part, like I don't have one, man. Like we're talking about what we're going to talk about beforehand. Yeah. I don't have one. I say there's one per generation.
100%. Yeah. Inside the ballpark, like a lot of ballparks, I talked about this earlier on, a guy from New York talking about the City Field. Ballparks seem to me to have a lot more stuff going on to keep fans out of the seats and wander around the ballpark, get in there a little bit earlier to spend more money, obviously, because that's why they do it. And the stuff for the kids, and then there's always a Hall of Fame, there's always a museum. Does Citizen Bank Ballpark have all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, like where you get in your VIP section, like there's you have a kids ball court, all kinds of stuff, things of that nature, man. It's pretty fun, and then, like you said, like they have your main concourse basically out there, and right center field where most of your big food places are. The other one is the Chickies and Pete crab fries, man. Those are the other one that's on that list, man. It's you can't go to a game down there without them crab fries.
Oh, really? That good, hey?
Yeah, man. It's like your crinkled fries, sprinkled. I guess what if you would have to generalize, I guess it would be an Old Bay seasoning. You get your cheese cup, man. Make sure you get a couple of them things with a drink.
Yeah, it's funny how like some ballparks just have a certain food. Like in Seattle, they got the garlic fries that are and the way it just permeates your skull with the smell as soon as you walk in the ballpark. Yeah, I'm getting those all day long. It's funny how there are things. It's always
not just a hot dog and a type of fry when you get to a baseball game.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you go to a game, like where's your how many games a year do you go to? Couple, three maybe?
I mean, it all really depends. It varies. Each year, each season, how good they are, what you're able to kind of put together within the family. But yeah, I try to catch a few a year. I mean, as far as seats go, I just go wherever I get available or that I get a hold of. I've been from Veteran Stadium to Citizens Bank Park. I've been all the way up to the 700 level. I've been down, been down, third base line. Even I even did a thing a few years ago when like my kids were first really kind of getting into it, where we went for a couple of road games. So when we went, Camden Yards, we went down there to Washington. So I mean, we had some fun going to different ballparks as well. But yeah, nothing beats home. Nothing.
100%. You mentioned Veterans Stadium a little bit. What's your memories of that old place? Because it came in those cookie cutter stadiums. You had Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and the Vet.
The bowl stadium.
They're all pretty much the same place. What's your memories about the old Vet?
Oh man, my first game. And the funny part is my first real memory of Veteran Stadium, like baseball game, was like winning some stuff when I was in Boy Scouts. We wound up catching a Cubs game, and this was like 89 or so, it wasn't too far after that Sandberg trade, so you're able to kind of see that, and then watch them kind of beat up on our Phillies a little bit. But I guess my fondest memory isn't even a baseball memory. My stepdad wound up getting Eagles playoff tickets. It was the first time they were in the playoffs. That Lions game when they blew the Lions out.
Yeah.
Randall Cunningham's on the sideline because his wife's pregnant. He's got the pager the whole night.
I remember that, yeah.
And it was just one of those games I'll never forget when Ronnie Pete hit Ricky Waters with that freaking bomb. It was like 50, 60 yards. Never forget that. It was that there's no place like Philadelphia for playoff sports. I'll tell you that right now, man. It's another level. When you've seen it like this past season with what the Eagles did. When you get in that stadium, in this environment, in this city with playoff baseball, football, whatever, it's another level, man.
Yeah, that Phillies team, they made a bit of a run that was we'll talk last year's team. They made a run that was just not you didn't see it coming.
And they were banged up, man. People tend to forget how banged up that Phillies team was last year. Like not only like all right, Bryce was hurt and that was the big thing, but they were banged up in the pitching staff. They were banged up all over the place, and they went put a run together like the way they did, and then do what they did this offseason. Man, I don't care. I don't care that the Mets. I don't care what the Mets did with Verlander. That don't mean nothing. We still got Nola. We still got Wheeler. I like the fact that Painter's gonna have a chance to make a rotational spot this year. You go make the trade for Turner after you lose Gene Segura. So you got Hoskins, Turner, Harper, and Realmuto on top of having Kyle Schwarber, who's coming off one of his best home run seasons as a pro.
Yeah.
In this ballpark, man, it's gonna be a fun summer, man. They're gonna put up some runs. They're gonna be a fun team to watch.
They're gonna put up some runs and they're gonna win some games. It's just that division's pretty tough with the Mets because they got a good team. And then the Braves, somehow they do it year in, year out. I'm not really sure how they piece it together down there in Atlanta all the time, but it's something else. No, that Phillies team, to watch that last year, like we said earlier on, I think everybody outside of Houston was hoping for the Phillies to pull that one off and just couldn't get it done. What was the mood like around Philadelphia when the final out and the Astros didn't win that World Series?
It's just like it wasn't a Superman heartbreak, man. It's just like you that team was special. Everyone in the world could see how special that team was, the chemistry, how they played off each other. Reese, Bryce, JT, Kyle, all them guys. Gene Segura had some big at bats, man. Like it was a fun team to watch, and they've been a fun team to watch for a while. It's just they were finally able to put it together and get into the postseason. That's kind of been their biggest thing, is staying healthy, putting everything together, and getting in the postseason has been their biggest bugaboo. Now you bring Bryce in in 2018, and here you are, 4 years later, and you have a team that can compete and potentially give yourself a world championship. I hope that Bryce is able to do it. The fact that you bring in a guy like Trey Turner, somebody they have that long history with one another, I think that this should be a fun team to watch over the next few years. I would not be surprised if they win one, if not multiple world titles.
I agree with you. They were so close last year, and then they bring in some different bodies to help out. And I think people. I
think the biggest surprise, the thing that no one talks about, is how good Ranger Suarez was in the playoffs, man. He was so clutch. And then you bring him back this year. You still have Tawan Walker. You have Painter. That's the bottom half of your rotation. We haven't even talked about, the steps Nola's going to take and what Wheeler is to this team. Wheeler's your ace on top of Nola being your ace.
Yeah, you got two top guys, and you get in the playoffs.
You got two guys that can win 20 games. You have two guys that can win 20 games.
And you get in the playoffs with those two guys. That should be two victories.
And that was the thing that I think the roughest part about that run is that neither one of those guys was right in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Nola or Wheeler wasn't. If you can change that narrative this October, this November, we're going down Broad Street.
And the thing about the Phillies, and we'll get to Bryce Harper, like you mentioned, is that he gets such a bad rap out of every other fan base and every other market, because he just has that attitude about him. But I think Philly's the kind of place where he can shine a little bit and have a little bit of flair. He's got a little bit of grit.
If you look at it, he is the Philly persona.
Yeah. Little grit, little screw you attitude.
A little bravado, a little cocky, but when it comes down to it, he's still humble and he backs it up when it comes down to it.
Yeah. No, he's a hell of a
guy
player.
That's passionate, and you see that fire out of him. And that's why I think it's still so funny that you see all these NFL teams being so mad at Nick Sirianni this year. He embodies what this city is.
Yeah.
You want a coach like that, regardless if we're talking baseball, football, or whatever. Like, everyone still wants to hold on to this Tom Landry suit and tie, and you have to hold your – that's not what sports is anymore.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I was just thinking about like Harper, how he's got this flair and the whole bit and a little bit of personality, and people complain about that. But then you go the other end of the spectrum, where you got local kid Mike Trout, who plays in Anaheim, and people complain about that he doesn't have enough. So, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Like, in the middle, like Jeter, who was obviously I'm a Jeter guy, but he was kind of bland throughout his career. So, what do you guys? What does the media?
But here's the thing: Jeter
what do fans want?
Was a leader to the men, not to the city, not to the fans, not to the management, to the men in that locker room. That's all he had to do.
Yeah, the rest of it takes care of itself.
You had other guys that could do that, regardless if you're talking about. Rivera, Andy Pettitte, whoever was on those teams. Like, you had guys that could step up and be that guy where Derek didn't have to. Publicly.
Yeah. But be behind the closed doors, you don't know what was said. And that's one good thing about these.
You don't know. Like until all this stuff started coming out with the NFL over the past, 5 years or so, all the behind the scenes in the locker room stuff, you didn't know who the leaders were in this teams. You assumed it was because who they put the C on their jerseys. But just because you have a C on your jersey don't mean you're not a leader in that locker room.
Like, if your team has to have a guy with a C in his jersey, then they don't have any leaders, right? It's like, if you can't just lead by example or go kick a garbage can or whatever it might be to get your team going a little bit, and you need a guy that says you're the captain, your team ain't going nowhere. It's just not. Like, I understand why they give a CEO, but it's if you need a captain, and that's why
you look at football. Remember, they went and added more to it. Now you're allowed to have 5. Remember, there was only like 3 for the longest time.
Yeah, and the only football's just a different breed. Like, the coaches run the asylum on that more than the players do, obviously, but it's a different thing. In Philadelphia, you've had a great team. Last World Series was in 2008. 2009, lost to my Yankees, and you came close
Y'all
this year.
Stole one from us, man.
And then you go back to 92 when they lost to the Toronto Blue Jays. 93. The 93, the Blue Jays
broke our hearts.
Yeah, what do you remember about that World Series back in 93? Because, like, here in Canada, everybody was jumping up and down and going a little bit crazy. What do you remember about that 93?
That was another one. I thought the Macho Row guys were going to do it, man.
Yeah. Because they had quite the group of characters.
Shut you guys in the 8th, and then Mitch Williams just gave it right back to you guys. It's rough.
Yeah, quite the group of characters on that team.
I got it. I was at my grandmother's house because my mother worked nights. I remember creeping out of my bed, getting in trouble, being yelled at. Hit the home run. I started no. My grandmother's, what are you doing up? Nothing.
Yeah, it's funny.
I'll never forget that. That was your first real heartbreak. You know what I mean? That Phillies team, that was, what was it? Lenny Dykstra, Darren Daulton, John Kruk. They had so many fun guys on that
Grit
team.
Grinders, grindy kind of players that
Pete Incaviglia, Jim Eisenreich. They had so many characters on that team.
Yeah. No,
Danny Jackson was the biggest one, and no one even remembers him anymore.
No, you don't. Because the other guys were so, like, larger than life.
You had like Schilling and other guys like that on the rotation.
Yeah. No, you mentioned about when your team has heartbreak, and this is going a little bit off top, and your team loses. It's like that feeling is almost worse than the feeling you get when your team wins. Like that, like it just wrenches your gut apart. Like your team wins, you're like, hey, that was great. And you celebrate for a day and then it's over. But when your team loses, you remember that could go on for days on end. You're like, son of a, like you can't let it affect your life. Still got to go to work and do whatever you got to do. But when you lose, it hurts more than the feeling you get when your team wins for the elation that you get.
It's so close. It's so crazy how those two things are so close in one another.
Yeah.
Like the emotion. Like obviously it's two totally different things, but yeah, man. Like when you wind up, I think the biggest one is when you wind up winning the one you're supposed to lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Out of nowhere.
And that was why I kind of felt like that 09 Phillies team, like obviously that Yankee team was special, but so was that Philly team with when they brought in Cliff Lee and everything like that, and it never worked. And I really felt even worse. What was it? 2011 when set the franchise record of wins and get swept out by the Reds.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. Yeah. And those ones
and that's what ended Captain Clown Ryan Howard's career.
Yeah, he's called an all-time great for the Phillies, but I don't think he is. I think I don't want to say overrated, but he's a little overrated. In fact, here's
one of the things I think he's properly rated in the city. That is that outward. I think because he had that great rookie year, he was this good home run hitter and things of that nature. Yeah. That everyone feels that like, oh, he should be a Hall of Famer. No, he shouldn't. That guy fell so short in so many different things. Granted, he's a silver slugger that wasn't consistent. Wasn't like a Gold Glove first baseman or anything like that. He would get these hot streaks where he would just hit the ball. That was it.
The thing about baseball compared to the other sports you watch, like hockey, and you can see the Flyers jersey behind you there, and everything else. The thing about those sports, you can have all-time greats that don't win, and you're remembered for that. Baseball is one of those sports I think you kind of have to win to get that national recognition because
you got one. If anything, yeah. I would have to say, out of those teams, the guys that are most memorable isn't Ryan Howard. It's Cole Hamels. It's Chase Utley. It's Jimmy Rollins. It's not Ryan Howard.
Yeah, 100%. Utley was good, and so yeah, like those guys you just.
Utley was the guy everyone remembers because he was so drunk at the parade. He's in there. They give him the mic, and he's just like world heavy champs. He loved it. He was just
great.
hammered.
You get to a couple games a year, and every game has its own thing, and every game has a situation where it might not mean anything. It might be a Tuesday afternoon in July that you end up at the ballpark, and then something cool happens, and you were there for it, and you look back. Is there a moment like that you can remember at the ballpark or back at the old vet that you go at a game where you go, I can't believe I just saw that, and this is my moment, whether it was with your family or with some buddies or what. Tell me about that moment.
The 20-inning game against the Padres in the 93 season. I was at that game.
Yeah. Stay the whole thing?
No. Grandma was like, after 15, Grandma was like, all right, we're going home. Yeah. But as soon as we walked in the door, watch Mitch Williams hit, get the game-winning RBI to put it away. But it was just one of those things. It's like, I remember that game vividly. It was back and forth, and then you get in the extra innings, and you're sitting there. Me and my brother are trying our damnedest to make my grandmother stay through the entire game. But I mean, like I said, that team was fun. That team was special. I caught a couple other games, but they were just like you said. It was just sometimes it's just a day in July, a day in August. It was. I wound up getting tickets from a friend a few years ago. Because the day before it gets rained out, I wound up getting a double header. Yeah. So, me, my girlfriend, and my kids go to the game, and it was an overcast day. So the next day we wound up spending sunburnt on a day that didn't have a single ray of sunshine on us. Yeah. So we get sunburnt in an overcast day, watching a double header.
Oh, that's great.
At Lake Park. So it's just like, you got to pick and choose, man. Like, so I'll say this much: if you get in there, but just make sure you find an
What are some we'll get to the extra innings here in a second, but what are some like do's and don'ts? Like what's some things that to avoid maybe a little bit? What's some do's and don'ts when you go to the big ballpark in Philadelphia?
Well, make sure you try to eat or drink beforehand, so you don't have to pay for a $10 drink or whatever. But like if you do enjoy the food there, make sure you do catch it. Obviously, for you opposite fans, don't try to engage in trash talk with us because it's not going to end well.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the biggest one. Like I say it a lot of times. Like, listen, don't even wear your team's colors, man. Just go there wearing a regular t-shirt, pants, and a hat.
Yeah.
I mean, like it all depends. Like we're all have our own personalities and things. You're big. Just don't try to sit there and get in a screaming match with Joe Philly fan. Because even little Johnny Philly fan's gonna get in your face and give you double birds too.
Yeah, don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear. The best way to avoid a situation, Steve, is to avoid a situation. That's kind of been my saying for my entire life. Right?
You just smile, laugh, and ignore.
Yeah, that's right.
Ignore.
That's exactly right.
I mean, there's some situations where you can. I remember being at a game once. It was for the Thanksgiving Day game, the first one that the Eagles had. And people were like deep frying turkeys. Sees an idiot walking by with a Cardinals jersey, and they throw the whole turkey at him. I'm like, he's a Cardinals fan. He's not even a real rival. They left our division like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could see if it was a Giants fan or even more so a Cowboys fan. It was he was a Cardinals fan. He didn't say anything.
Like, who hates the Cardinals? Like, who hates the Cardinals? Except the Cardinals fans, maybe. Like, really, when it comes down to it. Like the Cardinals have such
most of the NFL hates them now after how that field looked after that game. I think the whole
was a debacle. I cannot believe that. Like, that is crazy how